So yes,
Okay.
I can.
All right.
Yeah, so I don't understand.
We'll
Whoever-
talk about broadcasting, because that would now be on the, if you can hear inside of this, that would be whatever was going out on the air.
Okay,
And whoever
right.
whoever texted you might need to make sure that their computer volume is up.
yeah, okay. Okay, so once again, Mark, I will turn it over to you at this point in time.
Good. Thank you, everyone, for attending this morning. And we are actually going to turn this now over to our interim county administrator, Mr. Eric Greenway. He's going to handle things from here. Eric, so you have the floor to go ahead with the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Lawson and Council Chairman Passama. Good morning, everyone that is online watching, and good morning, council members who are here this morning. A couple of things that I need to go over real quickly before we start with the presentation. The workshop could be very lengthy or it could be very short, depending on the presentations and things like that. I had promised you all that we would have the final budget to you for general fund today, but we received the final comp and class study numbers about 4 business days later than we were hoping to receive it. Whitney and Pinky and Catherine Mead and Paget Cowing, our new HR director, have been working diligently to try to figure all that out. They did not get the numbers until this past Tuesday. They've been working, in some cases, with one employee, she asked me not to do this, around the clock virtually to get ready for today. So anyway, to try to figure all that out. So one of the things that I'm going to have to do with you all at some point this morning is to discuss if you all want another workshop, a 4th one that we can do on May 20th or 21st that will give you the final numbers, or if you want us to just present you the final budget as a part of your backup for first reading at your 2nd meeting in May. So if you will be thinking about that and provide staff some direction on that, I would greatly appreciate it. We do believe that our revenue situation we're evaluating right now, we do believe that our revenue situation might allow us to be able to advance the implementation of the comp and class study to a point earlier in the year. But again, we've got to have those final numbers to make sure the study is correct before we can give you that final determination and recommendation. And then one of the things that I'm going to do after we hear from the Public Defender's Office and then give you all an opportunity to ask the sheriff, he has graciously agreed to be here this morning with his very talented and skilled assistant, Ms. Cook, finance person there. They are here this morning to answer any questions that you all may have for them about the budget. And then I'm going to go over a couple of things that honestly, that I'm concerned about, the level of funding that we're providing to certain charitable organizations, and a couple of things that we're not funding to you, with you all, with regards to things that have been funded in the past that were not recommended to be funded this year from a non-governmental funding standpoint. And then after that, I'll turn it over to Pinky and Ms. Richland to finish up and go over the numbers that we have in place right now and do that. But having said that, if we're ready with the public defender, do we have somebody from the public defender's office on line with us at this point? Apparently not. So we will hold off on them, see if we can get in touch with them to get them here. And I'm going to turn it back over to you all at council level and allow the sheriff to come up and answer any questions you all may have about things that you saw in their budget that some of you had asked me questions about that I did not want to answer on his behalf because I do not know the answer and wouldn't even pretend to understand what the sheriff's obligations and commitments are to providing the service that he provides to the citizens every year. So anyway, so we'll do that while we're waiting on the public defender, if that's okay. So, all right. Chairman Passman, do you want to start, or Chairman Lawson?
Sure, I can handle everything. And I think at this point, Sheriff, we thank you for getting everything to us. At this point, I know that was Mr. Hervershaw that had more questions than most everybody else. I'm not sure if he's even on here today. So is there anyone else from council that has any addition? And we appreciate, Sheriff, you coming out. I know we asked that last time. It was kind of a blind question to ask if you'd come back to answer questions. Is there anyone from council that does have any additional questions for the sheriff?
I will chime in and say thank you very much to the sheriff's office for presenting a comprehensive budget. In the analysis of the budget, I believe that the sheriff taking out the Hilton Head law enforcement separately is a good thing. That gives us in his proposed budget exactly what he believes will be the cost of providing Hilton Head Island the law enforcement budget items that they need. And that is a wonderful thing. It looks like it's going to be $3.8 million, just slightly over that. So I do appreciate that very much. The idea of giving us the cost of doing business and the budget increase of where that's coming from is a good thing. The one question that comes from me is in taking a look at the DNA lab over the course of the fiscal year 19, 20, 21 approved and what we're going to do for 2022. Because this is going to be so scrutinized by Hilton Head Island to ensure that we're not causing them to pay a single penny more. I need to know, it appears just on the surface, so that's why I'm asking the question, that the original DNA lab, when it was asked for, there was specialized equipment of about $195,000 and $300,000 for the actual renovation in the budget. It was then carried over to the next year's budget, and taking a look at just the plain dollar values, it looks like that $495,000 is still in the budget. So we'll need some clarification about that if in fact that is an accurate statement.
The expansion of the forensics lab, because there's more there than just DNA. There's arson and also drug. So that expansion, we started that in 2019 is the original date that we started. The budget was passed in June, and then we began looking at the expansion. Unfortunately, we got nothing done in that fiscal year. It was a lot of red tape. Some of the red tape was finally dealt with. Then we run into last year, which is 2020. Everyone knows 2020 through COVID-19. We finally got to a point where we began the construction for the expansion. We expect that expansion to be complete, I think, in June, around June 1st. And I got to say that Wes, who's overseeing that project, has done an unbelievable job, because during the entire project with the contractors, we had delays, of course, that were contributed to the coronavirus, and we also had delays that were contributed to workforce issues. So I think we're getting closer. There's no money in this budget for any of the expansion. That, again, that'll be completed, and that was money that was rolled over for the expansion, but there are costs associated with the operation of that lab on an annual basis. We expect to get additional money this year for technology upgrades from the state as we got last year. I don't know that we'll get that same number, but I spoke with Bill Herb Kirschman a few weeks ago, and he is working trying to accomplish that for Beaufort County as well. So, and I think there's some federal grant opportunities that we're also have applied for and maybe received. And Suzanne's standing here beside me chomping at the bit to explain this in detail, so I'll yield my time to Suzanne.
Good morning. I do want to take a step back and just make a few comments about the Hilton Head budget first. The Hilton Head, yes, we did move it over from our current operating budget into the special revenue fund. However, that is the 3.8 million. However, Councilman Passament, there needs to be a transfer of the pooled benefits because currently in fiscal year 21, they are pooled in a different account. Those benefits need to be transferred over into that special revenue account, which will equate to over $500,000 to bring that up to at least the $4.4 million. So I wanted you to know that total will be larger than the 3.8. Moving on to the forensics lab, I will look at the detailed sheet. This year, we actually have hired 2 new chemists that come aboard this month. Actually, either this month or June. It depends on how their housing actually finishes up. But with that being said, that is a particular increase in the operating budget. It's not a capital line item. Of course, that's a personnel expenditure. And also because we have the new chemists, we have increased our consumables, our supplies, because we will be utilizing analyzing the machines more this year. So are there any other specific questions in regards to the forensics lab? The sheriff is correct in the fact that there isn't any funds earmarked for renovations for the forensics lab in fiscal year 22. All of that should be completed by the end of June.
Suzanne, will you have an exact number of the benefits?
I can give you what Alicia had historically told me to budget. Now, I would imagine that has changed. So it may be best if I met with Pinky and Ms. Richland and sit down and talk about what they forecast, as well as the new HR director for the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
That helps.
Is there anybody else that has additional questions? Well, I don't see any hands anywhere. Again, thank you for coming. Again, the sheriff, thank you for coming. I think at this point, having more information in our hands, and I think every year you've tried to comply and tried to give us more, and we appreciate that, which then makes it easier for us to look at things and go through things and have a better understanding. So the 2.5 years I've been here, I've seen you all be very willing to give more and more information every year. So we appreciate that, and that makes it again much easier for us to cooperate and help you and do what we need to do to help you all. So again, is anything else for the sheriff while we have him here? And again, we appreciate your time for coming out today.
Mr. Lawson, you said that Mr. Hervishon had several questions. Have they been sent over to the sheriff's office?
I have not received anything. I expected that we'd handle those today or additionally. So I'll have to reach out to Mr. Hervishon and see if there's anything. And if we can handle some of those, offline if needed, if there's still things that Chris is asking for.
Okay.
I don't want to take up any more time of the sheriff, again, who is, again, taking time out of his busy schedule to be here.
Well, and I'll ask Eric also while we're here, if you could please provide all the council members with all of our contact information, email, phone number, cell phone, and stuff like that. And if you could pass that on to Councilman Hervishon, he is more than welcome to send us an email with his questions or take a few minutes and give us a call. Be glad to answer.
Great. Thank you, Sheriff. And again, we do appreciate your time. We know how busy you are.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Eric, back to you.
Yeah, we do have the public defender's office on now, so we'll turn it over to Ms. Smart Giddings now, if it's okay with council to do her presentation. So.
Yes.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Hear you great.
Can you see me? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
We can see you perfectly. You're doing
Perfect.
good job.
I apologize. My admin is not here today. and I am technologically illiterate, and it shows, so I apologize. Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to present this morning. First of all, again, I apologize because I did not have a copy of our numbers analyst prior to the budget request period ending. So I did not know the number of cases that had increased from September of 20 until February of 21. And we have seen an increase in the number of cases that we're receiving across the board. And I believe it is because you gave us the money to be in bond court. So when the defendants realize that they have access to public defenders immediately, then we've seen an uptick in the number of people that actually want our services. While we're still seeing a few denied, but the majority, for example, I'll tell you in September of 20, we had 91 people approved in bond court compared to the year before that. It took us 15 days to get maybe 10 cases. So in monthly increments, we're seeing an increase in numbers. In October of 2020, we saw 224 new additional cases. In November, 119. And then at that same time, in September of 20, only 38 people refused our services. 8 people were denied because they didn't qualify for our services. In October of 20, 224 were approved, while 58 refused our services. And again, only 8 were denied. So I also want to express that although at bond hearing, they refused our services, there is a possibility that 15, 20, 30, or maybe 2 months later, they might apply and be appointed to our office. My magistrate court attorney, Philip Rios, unfortunately talked to me in January, February, and indicated that his case numbers had increased. He now has a total of 588 cases, not clients, but cases, and that is by warrant. So he has the highest number of cases in our office. He does predominantly magistrate court. He doesn't do any general sessions. He doesn't do any municipal, only magistrate court. And we noticed the last couple of months he's been messing up his files because one day he had 5 marijuana cases and he contacted the wrong person about a sentence. So he has indicated that he's barely treading water. So we definitely have to find someone to help him. We've identified someone who is interested in the position, and they're ready to go if we are approved for the funding. I will tell you that, and I'm looking at my spreadsheet, in January of this year, we had an increase of 191 cases. So we're seeing some plateau, I think, but we're not sure what is going to happen now that we've seen the COVID backlash. We've seen the people who are getting out, being able to apply. We're starting to have in-person court, and the number of cases are fluctuating more at an increase than a decrease, and it doesn't seem to be stabilizing. So I know that you gave me a lot of money last year, and I feel so bad having to come back to you and ask you for more money. But I just feel like it's necessary for my bond court attorney. I'm also in negotiations with the municipal court because the same thing happened to my municipal court attorney who represents the cities of Bluffton, Port Royal, and Beaufort. He's seen an increase in cases, and I'm in negotiations with the municipalities to increase their budget so that I can hire another attorney for a municipal court. So it seems like it's across the board in Beaufort County. The case numbers are increasing, and I know Duffy realized that as well. He made the same presentation that the cases are increasing. And now we have to put the metal to the road because we're in a jam again. It's not our fault. I hate to say it's COVID's fault, but something has happened to cause us to be in a very uncomfortable position. And as sorry as I am to ask, and I wouldn't ask if I didn't think it was totally necessary, I would ask for that additional funding for the magistrate court attorney. I even tried to figure out if I could, put a part-time attorney in municipal court and then part-time in magistrate court, but the municipal court doesn't want to share the funding. So it's almost like, I'm coming to both councils trying to solve a problem, but without any help from the municipalities. But I can't allow my municipal attorney to be in a situation where he's taking too many cases and he's compromised. So I think I'm between a rock and a hard place.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you have any data that you can provide to us of cases that, again, so we can look at it as hard numbers of cases from the past couple of years, and what you have coming up? And you've mentioned a couple of different numbers, but that all sounds great, but without having historic numbers.
I can email it right now.
Okay.
I can forward that to you, and then you can. Who should I forward it to? Harriet, I guess.
Yes, you can get to Harriet.
Okay, I will get that to her right now.
Miss Harriet, yes.
We have last year and this year. It'll take us. We have 2020 and 2021. It'll take us maybe a couple of days to go back and do 19, 18. Well, actually, we have that from last year. So you have that data from last year. This is the current data from 20 and 21. So that'll be easier for me to get. So how many years do you want me to give you?
Well, we need the past couple of years, and also what your projections are, what you think's coming up. And then you talked about asking for more money. Tell us a little more about your numbers in the past and where you think you're going to be, because again, especially people listening in the audience, they don't have any information in front of them. So again, we do need to have what numbers you're talking about, what you're thinking, and again, just something that we can use as solid information.
So I think that I think it's really hard to say what's going to happen in the next couple of months after society opens back up. And I think we're going to be similarly situated as the sheriff and the solicitor's office, in that our case is going to be determined by the number of cases that the sheriff makes, the city of Beaufort makes, Port Royal makes. So the number of our cases will be based on the number of arrests and then the number of people who qualify. The steady increase, I can't tell you when it's going to decrease. I have no idea. It looks like in February, it did decrease a little because we went down to, actually in January, we were at 150 cases. In February, we went up to 152. So I think it may be on hopefully a steady or maybe a decrease. I'm not sure. I can tell you that I'm pretty sure that bond court is what caused the increase. And I know that we had to have an attorney there, and for this reason, because people are aware that they can have access to an attorney at a bond hearing, and they're being screened at the bond hearing, and they're being appointed at the bond hearing. And so that is going to continue. That attorney will always be in bond court, and that number may increase. But are these people being arrested because of COVID? I don't know, because it's the same types of cases that we're seeing. So I don't know if it's a COVID in fluctuation or if that's just where we are as a society. I don't know the answer, but I can tell you that, for example, I think the greatest thing that you can see is bond court. But even with our mitigation team that you gave us money for last year, she's been very active, and she's been turning over leaves and just doing really, really well in court with the other attorneys. And thank God we did have that number because our general sessions attorneys are in good positions right now. They don't have a very high caseload. They're manageable. There are two of those attorneys who have about 348 cases, but about the average case count for each attorney is about 250, 275, and that's very manageable. The American Bar Association standard is about 400. So that money that you gave us to hire those additional attorneys really helped us out last year, and we can see that in the cases. I think once you see the data that's broken down, and I have 19 here as well, September 2019, we received 274 warrants. September of 20, we received 146 warrants. So that September of 19, we had a higher number of warrants. But I'm definitely going to send this information over so that you can look at it like I'm looking at it and trying to present to you, so you can have it and look at it for yourself. I actually thought that Amber had sent it over prior to the meeting, but I will send it over right now.
Good, and obviously you did receive a large increase last year, and that was to hire folks and do more things. So tell us what you did with the money from last year, especially since we had COVID. So the court, did not happen. Increases, did hire the people that you thought you were going to hire? Did you do things? So you can just tell us a little bit about what you did with the increase you had from last year.
So I think the bond court staff. I am contracting with 2 attorneys, and I have a full-time admin who works all bond court issues. So as the municipal judges or the magistrate are appointing in bond court, she's processing the warrants, she's opening the files, and our attorneys have those files right away. You gave us money for technology, which was amazing. We now have the same program that the solicitor's office has, evidence.com. So where last year it was taking us 8 hours to download discovery, the solicitor's office uploads it to evidence.com. My office goes right in and pulls the discovery. So they're getting discovery almost immediately after the solicitor's office lets them know that it's uploaded. So that has been tremendous for our office. In my mitigation team, I hired a mitigation attorney, a mitigation sentencing specialist, and an investigator. That team has been remarkable. Judge Mullen had a trial last week, I believe, and the plea offer was, I think, for 20 years. After our mitigation specialist presented her information to Judge Mullen, after the defendant was found guilty, he received a 16-year sentence. So through her mitigation, his sentence was less than the plea offer and less than the recommendation to the state to the judge by the solicitor's office. They wanted, after he pled guilty, they wanted him to be sentenced to 20 years, and Judge Mullen gave him 16 years, and that's because our mitigation team is amazing. They're uncovering mental illnesses. She has successfully sent about 12 people to rehab. She's provided transportation. She's found the rehab, and she actually keeps up with the centers to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing while they're there. So she's been remarkable. Judge Mullen actually thought she was an attorney because she's very good at what she does. She's passionate about it. And so she was a very good hire. So between our mitigation team, the bond court team, and we hired 3 new attorneys. Well, actually, if you include our bond court attorneys, we've hired 5 new attorneys. So we have used the money to do everything that we said that we were going to do, and it is working wonderful. And had it not been for the increase in magistrate and municipal court, we wouldn't need any more money, but we didn't see the increase in the magistrate court cases at bond court level.
Is there anyone else on council that has a question for Ms. Smart Gettings? I can't see your hand, so just speak up, Stu. Okay, I see you, Stu. Go ahead, Stu.
Yeah, just a comment. And I'm thinking back to when Duffy presented to us also, is that because the courts were closed, we've ended up with a large number of cases that need to be processed. And it strikes me that there may be a need to do more short-term funding to get the backlogs back to where they need to be. At the state level, they typically use probably a proviso, which is a year-to-year thing. I don't know whether we have that capability or not, but since we tend to look at budgets each year as the starting point, there could be a case made, I'm not saying there is, but maybe for Duffy and for the defender, that maybe there needs to be more money for a period of time as we catch up and then revert back to more normal levels. So I just offer that as a comment. I don't know that that's necessarily a need.
And I can tell you that is exactly what the state is doing this year. The Office of Indigent Defense requested a non-recurring $4.8 million for contract counsel. And so what they're proposing is that they fund 2 contract positions, and those contract attorneys would be to help with the backload. It did pass the Senate because the budget has been sent because of the tax date being May 15th. We won't know whether or not our budget will be approved until probably right before the fiscal year. So there is a possibility that we might receive contract money for 2 years from the state, and that would help. But
Okay.
we don't know whether that's going to happen or not. But
Well, it
that's
sounds
exactly a good point that you have, Mr. Stewart.
Good. Well, it does sound like something we can keep an eye on as we go forward. You can keep us appraised, and I'm sure Duffy's probably watching, and he probably can weigh in also. But obviously, we need to make sure that justice gets caught up, because justice delayed is just denied, as we all know. Thank you very much for what you're doing.
Very, very good point, Stu. So let me just, Ms. Smart Giddings, let me just ask this then, because we've kind of asked some of the same questions to Mr. Stone over the years. So you're asking us for an increase. How is your funding from other counties? Are you asking them for increases? And what percentage of funding does Beaufort County provide to you compared to our other counties around us? I know the biggest workload comes from Beaufort County, so we expect that. So this is not a trick question. So just kind of want to get a feeling of where we are, so everyone else knows that we are the largest funder for your office.
You are absolutely the largest funder. Of course, Allendale gives us absolutely nothing. They give us $5,000 a year, a quarter, so $20,000 a year, and we don't receive that at all. So we have very little resources in Allendale. I don't even have a designated attorney for Allendale. Mr. Plexico lives in Allendale, and he handles the majority of those cases. Jasper County did not give us the increase in the last couple of years, but they did give us a new office space, which we needed because we were growing. Carlton County did not give us an increase because they too as well gave us a new office space. And Hampton County has not given us an increase, nor have they given us any additional office space. But all the funds that you gave us, I was very, very particular to make sure that none of that new money went to any of the other counties. The mitigation team has found bed space for a defendant in Jasper County. So I did allow her to work on a Jasper County case, but she predominantly works on Beaufort County cases. The mitigation team is a Beaufort County team as well. So while, and unfortunately, when my Beaufort County attorneys are getting raises, I tell all the other counties, I'm sorry. If your county doesn't give me any money, then I can't give you a raise because it's not fair to the Beaufort County attorneys. So while we all may be Beaufort County employees, they're designated to work in a county that doesn't provide funding, so they can't be similarly situated as Beaufort County attorneys, where Beaufort County takes care of my office. So I respect the fact that Beaufort County taxpayers give me money for Beaufort County office. So I can assure you that that money has not been used or any other county. I have been asking the other counties for a magistrate court attorney, a municipal court attorney, a bond court attorney. They're not willing to do it, so they can't benefit from Beaufort County. They just can't.
Good. Thank you for that. Any other questions? And if we don't have any other questions, Ms. Smart Giddings, and just like we did for the sheriff's office, once we got their request and their budget so everyone could see what we're looking at, we might ask you to come back and answer questions at that time. However, just like the sheriff's office, when they supplied their details, it made it easier for us then to not have questions. So if you can get us everything you've got that can help us then with our decision and what we need to do, that's going to then help you. More information that we can get. And again, we talked about the numbers of cases and the increases compared to other years, and, what you're going to spend the money for, whether it's for additional attorneys. All those things are what's going to help us then determine what needs to be done. Just like Mr. Rodman said, this might be something that there just needs to be an increase over the next couple of years until we catch back up on the COVID backlog. But again, we appreciate you coming out today, and we'll look forward to your information. If you can just get that. Oh, Mr. Dawson, I see your hand now. Go ahead, Gerald.
Yeah, I just want to say before you close, Ms. Smart Giddings, we thank you for the work that you and your staff do in the Public Defender's Office. We're glad to hear that our contribution last year enabled you to increase your service and provide the additional help that you needed to help defend those clients that you're defending. So, and I understand now that you need an attorney for I believe you said the magistrate court.
Yes, sir.
That is correct?
That's correct. Okay.
All right. So, just wanted to thank you. You're doing a good job. I know the mental illness aspects of your service is greatly needed. I've had some encounters in the jailhouse with some mental clients, and which really shouldn't be in that population. So your help and your assistance in that vein is greatly needed. So I look forward to you providing us with the information that the chairman just requested, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time. And again, I apologize. I promise to learn how to use this system before the next meeting.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Smart Giddings. Thank you for coming out today. And again, we'll look forward to your information so then we can help you as best we can.
Thank you.
Great. Eric, I'll turn it back over to you then for
Thank you.
next presentation.
Yeah, thank you. The next presentation will be for me just to highlight a few things that I want to make council specifically aware of, just so that you all can make appropriate decisions when it comes time to make your recommendation. You all just heard from the public defender. Previously, you heard from the solicitor's office. Both of those have requested about $300,000 increases in their budget, over $500,000. So you all will need to evaluate what the specific need is on that as you move forward on that. I do think Council Member Rodman made a great suggestion in that, we consider doing some sort of limited funding increases for them to catch up on the backlog, but not as permanent increases. If we could potentially do that, if that's the desire of council, then staff will be prepared to make a recommendation to you all on how the best way would be to do that for both individuals. As you might suspect, the public defender has requested an increase that is consistent with the increase of the solicitor's office. And you all need to evaluate whether or not that increase would be justified based on the presentation you just heard. In addition to that, the treasurer's office has submitted an increase, adding 3 additional employees to that budget. Had a substantial increase in the salaries line item on her budget. We have trimmed that back due to the fact that the common class study would not recommend that type of increase for the treasurer's office. And also the treasurer's office currently has 6 vacant positions that have been on the books for some time. So we're not recommending an increase in any personnel for that office currently until we see those existing vacancy positions filled for that particular office. The final thing I'm going to highlight for you is what I would term as, charitable contributions that we make, funding that we make for various organizations. And I'm going to ask Brenna to pull up a spreadsheet for me, if you would do that, Brenna. You all are probably aware of these, but given the limited experience that our finance staff has with these issues, and given my limited experience with the history of some of these items, I must tell you that just looking at them on the face of the situation, it causes some concern that we need some direction from council on. You all may not know this, but we're paying about $100,000 a year to Ronald McDonald Charities in Savannah. One is a straight $19,000 contribution. The other one is an $81,000 contribution to operate a dental van here in the county through Beaufort Jasper Comp. And so those are a couple of things you need to evaluate. Also, we're providing a lot of money. If you'll look at this sheet here, we're providing a lot of money to the United Way of the Low Country. Some of those are direct payments, but some of those are pass-through payments to other agencies and things like that, other charitable nonprofit organizations. And you all probably need to evaluate that as well if we're going to continue to do those things. That's about $400,000 of our budget, in addition to the $81,000 that we're paying to Ronald McDonald Charities for the dental van. If you all would like for staff to look at alternative ways to deal with those things to cover some of these services, so that money can stay in the county and go to agencies within the county, then we are certainly agreeable to look into that. Should council like for us to do so. And then the final thing, Brenna, if you'll go to the second page, or Sarah, whoever's working that. I'm sorry, you have to re-pull it.
Sorry, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm in the second page of the spreadsheet. I apologize. Go down to the bottom of that sheet. Do you see something on there for Island Recreation?
Should be. It's right there.
Yeah, okay, I got it. So if you look at line 45 on the spreadsheet right there, you'll see that we have historically paid $135,000 a year to a group called the Hilton Head Island Recreation Association. Don't know what that money goes for, don't know what they use it for, don't know what their purpose is. We at the staff are recommending that not be funded this year for a variety of reasons, but one, it's located in the town of Hilton Head. So if they're providing services to Hilton Head, then I think they should reach out to Hilton Head to provide funding for that particular item. So we may be missing something on these. That's why we need counsel who has been here and has some historic knowledge of these funding sources to weigh in on this. But those are basically our concerns and updates on what we're recommending from a funding standpoint. So I'll answer any questions or take any comments about anything that I've just said to you all.
Let's, Stu, go ahead. I see your hand up. Is anybody, Stu? Actually, I think he was turning things off. Is there anyone that has a question? And Eric, thank you for putting this together. We've actually, I've been on the finance committee for the past, 2.5 years, and that's the first time I've ever seen it put into a spreadsheet like that. So that will help if we can get that to everybody so we can look at that and go through. And again, we'll have some discussions on those. Is there, Stu, go ahead. I see you, your hand, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I got lost technically there for a minute. Not too hard to do. I think Eric raises some good points on some of those items, and it strikes me that actually some of those discussions might be very fruitful in the individual committees. So, for example, many of the ones that he raised might fit well in community services, and it essentially gives me a heads up that Jared and I should be talking about public facilities if there's any particular issues of that type. The second one is more of a question. Are we at a point where we sense that we're going to have a no tax increase budget, or at least a no increase budget? Or is that still up in the air for discussion? And I have one more question after that.
Yeah, you're going to have an increased budget, but the increase in the budget, and this is, I may need to explain this further or have, because I'm a planner and I'm delving into numbers right now. So this is not my strong suit. So you're going to have an increased budget over last year's budget, but you're not going to have an increased budget pre-COVID. So the budget we're presenting to you this morning is consistent with the budget that we had prior to the COVID, not last year's substantial cut budget. So, and the second thing is we feel that the value of the meal, the revenue increases, all of those things are going to allow us to adequately cover the increase in the budget this year, and that would include a fully funded comp and class study as well. So Whitney may have some more details, so I'll let her come up and elaborate on that.
I'll just say our budget will be meal neutral, not necessarily revenue neutral, because as you know, the value of a meal can change. And with all that's happened in our real estate and all of the properties that have increased in value or either been added to our tax roll with the new construction, of course, increases the overall revenue generating capacity of the county. So we will be meal neutral, but not necessarily revenue neutral. Hopefully that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think for the general public, the concept of meal neutral, it really equates into no tax increase, because that's essentially no tax increase for an individual. So probably the best way to address it from the public standpoint is that we're not having a tax increase.
Yes, sir.
I think that'd be good. The last one I had, just maybe either for you or for Eric or for everybody, I was thinking back on our last discussion about the implementation of the personnel study and the pay study. And I think where we left it was that we might end up with a half-year increase kicking in January, and it had something to do with the level of activity that is required in order to do across the board with the number of employees that we have. Now, having said that, it strikes me that historically what we've always think we're doing is trying to look at things as being increases being primarily in the area of merit. However, it sounds like we have a situation where we have people that fall outside of the new scale, or they might be below the minimum. And I guess my thought would run to that clearly we ought to be as merit-based as we can, but if we have a surplus this year and we have people that are falling below the minimum, that we ought to at least consider maybe doing those people as quickly as we can. Now, maybe I misunderstood part of the prior discussion. That's kind of what ran through my mind after we talked at the last work session.
Yes, sir. You actually understood perfectly. Our initial recommendation was that we wait for a half-year implementation, and that recommendation was based on a few things. Number one, it's easier to fund half of a plan in the first year as opposed to a full plan. Number two, the administrative burden involved in filling out personal action forms on every employee in the county is quite a heavy lift. But we are not shy about challenges, so we can certainly tackle that. That was one of the factors that we are considering in light of the HR director just beginning as well. We didn't want to overwhelm the department all of a sudden, less than 8 weeks before the start of a new fiscal year. The third reason was because of individual income taxes. So typically, your W-2s follow a calendar year as opposed to a fiscal year. And we felt like given the significant bumps that some of our employees would be receiving and deserve may put them in a different tax bracket. So it may be more advantageous for them to have that heads up at the start of a calendar year as opposed to halfway through a calendar year. However, having said all that, and I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, Pinky was going to steal the show first and talk about how she's been able to shave the budget down. Having said those things to you about the half-year implementation, we worked tirelessly the last few days since receiving the Evergreen consulting file on Tuesday afternoon to get those compensation and classification numbers into the budget for fiscal 22. At this point, although I don't want to say with certainty because we are still working on those numbers, I do feel that a full year implementation is a possibility. As the budget sits currently, the personnel cost for salaries is about $4.8 million higher than it was in fiscal 21's budget, and the retirement piece is approximately $2.4 million higher. Part of the contributing increase in the retirement was the fact that there is a mandated 1% increase for both the employee retirement system and the peace officer retirement system. But having said those things, I do feel that it is a very real possibility that we could implement full year and thus provide some relief to our employees who are very under market rate. So with that, unless you have any other questions about the comp and class plan, which is the chief part that I have worked on with the budget, along with HR, and I really need to give kudos to Catherine Mead. She has also worked tirelessly in the trenches with us. I know that she's not on the call today, but publicly I would like to acknowledge her assistance. She's been a great help in this process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Pinky, who can tell you a little bit more about the steps that she has taken this year to sort of trim back the budget so that we can actually implement this for our employees. Our staff that I've been working with this week has heard me say over and over again how excited I am about the comp and class plan because it's going to do such wonderful things. And so we are really looking forward to making that happen. So Pinky, tell us how we're able to do that this year.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
So I wanted to share my screen. This is our updated fiscal year 22 budget request, and everyone see that? So we have started trimming down a lot. Well, we've continued to trim down a lot since our last budget workshop. And we, as per Mr. Greenway's suggestion, no new personnel requests were funded this year. And also in working with departments, elected officials, and the ACAs, we have managed to eliminate 24 vacancies. Also, thanks to HR helping provide us with updated numbers pretty much regularly so that we could trim down some of these figures. And we have managed to cut about $867,000 in vacant positions that we have been carrying over, not to include public safety because we left those positions vacant. Also, we had a total of $3.6 million in capital requests for fiscal year 22. We were able to, with the combination of reallocating some of our current fleet and postponing some of our requests, we were able to eliminate $2 million out of the capital request for fiscal year 22. And with that, leaving $1.6 million still in the for fiscal year 22 requests. But recently, we have asked department heads if they have any surpluses in their fiscal year 21 budget to try to utilize that surplus and fulfill some of the requests that they have submitted for fiscal year 22, so we can further reduce what their request, that $1.6 million. So in having done so, at the last budget workshop, we were down from the original $18 million increase in the fiscal year 22 budget request. We were at $11 million at the last budget workshop, but we have now been able to reduce our request to $6.2 million. So prior to a pre-COVID year, our budget was roughly, we were cut last year by $10 million, if I remember correctly. And our annual budget was the 130, which is this box right here. Sorry. Was $130 million. And then in fiscal year 22, our original request was about close to $145 million. So of the request increase was, a lot of that was the $10 million of capital requests that were not funded in fiscal year 21 due to COVID-related reasons. But we have managed to shave that down an additional $4 million. And as Whitney has said, after doing some quick math last night, the implementation for comp and class would be roughly about $4.8 million. So that combined with the $6.2 million increase, we will actually still be coming in under budget from a pre-COVID year. So I think that we will easily be budget neutral with our revenue projections currently, as well as our expenditures for fiscal year 22. Can I answer any questions for council?
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Harriet? I think, is this something that obviously we can get this out to all council members and they can have access to it, and obviously it's going to change as we move forward. But again, when will you have something you can give us that we can look at readily available?
Well, we can send this, but we would like to take a couple of days to be able to go ahead and implement comp and class into this budget so that you can see, well, we can send both if you would like. We could send you how far we've trimmed down now, which is what you're looking at, and then we can send another one that includes comp and class. Would that be preferable?
Yes, probably to get something to us whenever you're comfortable with it, but the sooner the better. So if it's something that we just have to know that it's going to be changed and merged, or if you think you will have something merged in the next couple of days, again, whatever the finance department and Eric, whatever you think is best to present to us to make it simpler for us to understand what we have in front of us.
What we'll attempt to do today and tomorrow is we will send you this spreadsheet with an overview, explanation, a summary of what all the numbers mean, and kind of recapping what Pinky just said to you all that are attending today, so that all the council will have the ability to understand what's going on with the spreadsheet, so that they'll be able to pick up on it. And then when we get the common class numbers in, we will send you a different spreadsheet with the summary for that. Hopefully we'll have that prior to the next finance committee for you all. We'll send that as part of your backup for that, since you'll be receiving some presentations at the next finance committee meeting. So.
Okay, that'd be good. And just make sure we understand what we're receiving and what will be changing. Ms. Harriet, great job. Obviously, everything is very straightforward, easy to understand, and having the prior years. And again, I think you've done a great job of presenting this in a very sensible way. Is there any other questions, again, from council? And we are missing quite a few, not quite a few, missing some of our folks here this morning. So obviously, we'll get to them, and I'm sure they'll have some questions since they've missed the presentation this morning. Stu, is that good, Mr. Rodman?
Yeah, it sounds like they're making some very good progress in reducing the budget. Perhaps we want to leave the budget process open a few extra weeks at the rate they're taking money out. See what they come back with. That's just a way of saying they're doing a good job.
Okay, let's appreciate that. Again, they are doing a great job, and we've got some very, very talented folks. Not that we didn't have talented people before, but they seem to work very well as a team together and be able to make sense to us, which in sense to the layman folks, and put it in presentation way that it is understandable for something that can be very, very complicated. Again, is there anything else that we've got? Any questions for Ms. Harriet?
Yeah, I've had my hand up a couple of times, but I guess you can't see me.
Sorry, Paul. No, I can't.
When we were talking about human services, I wanted to say about on the COSI program allowances, I think it's 180,000. I think it would be great for all council members to hear, I'm not questioning the amount, I'm just saying I think it would be helpful for council and anybody else that's listening to understand how that works and why it's so important. So maybe somebody, maybe Fred or somebody at some point can clarify that for us. I think it's just something that we need to understand better.
Good point. And there's some other things on the list that we just saw that we need to understand. You know, obviously, the money's been set aside for years, and all good organizations is then knowing where the money's going and what purpose it's fulfilling. Because again, the last thing we want to do is to cut out a program that is benefiting people in Beaufort County. Eric, is there anything else you have for us this morning? If Ms. Harriet's done, is there anything else you've got we need to cover?
Just two more items. We just need to talk about whether or not council feels like we need another workshop or if we can cover this final budget numbers at public. We will not be able to have a full budget to you prior to the next Finance Committee meeting because we have made a decision to move 3 presentations that you were scheduled for the budget calendar to hear Monday evening at council meeting. We've moved those to the Finance Committee meeting unless you all would like to have a workshop prior to Finance Committee or extend the length of the Finance Committee meeting on the 17th to hear those presentations and to have the final budget workshop as a result of that. Or we can look at the 20th or the 21st of May for a 4th budget workshop before you all will give first reading to the budget on the 24th. So that's just some direction I need to hear from council on how they would like to proceed with this.
Mr. Robin, go ahead.
I think we're making pretty good progress. I would almost leave it to Mark and Eric to tell us if they need another one, but my sense is you probably can get them done at finance, but that's just me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I mean, I've kind of liked the workshops. However, obviously, we didn't have the attendance this morning that we had hoped. So it might be better if we just have a few left to just do it at the finance, knowing it's going to take us a little longer to cover that. Let's probably leave it now unless there's a consensus that we get from everybody else to do another workshop.
Mr. Chairman, when is the finance meeting that we would do that at?
May 17th.
May 17th. I kind of agree with you, Chairman. Do it at the 17th when we'll have a better chance for everyone being there.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
I concur also, Mark. Let's just do what we have to do on the 17th, and if we don't have to extend an additional meeting, then let's not do it unless it becomes absolutely necessary.
We will have everything pretty well prepped. You will hear the presentations for TCL, USCB, and Palmetto Breeze at the Finance Committee on the 17th. If you all do not foresee approving any significant increases in those budgets, we're right now we're giving about $4.5 million to TCL and USCB. So if you all do not project any substantial increases in those, we will kind of have everything firmed up to the best of our ability for that particular meeting. At this point, let me look at Whitney to make sure she's comfortable with what I'm telling you. I don't see her gasping for air back here, so I think she's all right. So we'll be prepared to kind of present the final documents at the Finance Committee on the 17th with the understanding that given the length of the presentations, we may have to move public facilities to start around 4 that day so that we'll have an extra 30 minutes or so to cover all the presentations and questions council may have, but we'll plan on that approach going forward right now to do this at the next Finance Committee meeting.
Okay.
So, and then the final thing I wanted to bring up to you all is as a part of your goals and strategic plan, I'm probably going to catch the legal team off guard with this presentation. You all had asked us to consider putting in place a real estate position this year as a part of the budget process. Due to the cost of comp and class and all of that, we have not recommended that position be filled at this time this year. If council feels strongly about it, then we can reevaluate adding that position to the budget, but that is not a part of our recommendation as it stands currently. So,
Mr. Chairman, how much, and Mr. Greenway, how much did you estimate that position with benefits?
With salary and benefits, you're going to probably be looking at, $90,000 to $100,000.
And would it be located in legal?
It would,
probably?
yes, it would be located in legal. I feel, and the reason I'm making that recommendation, again, legal did not have a chance to talk to Kurt about this, so we've kind of caught him off guard a little bit, but I feel that given the situation right now coming out of COVID and what we're presently doing with legal at this point, Brittany Ward is doing a great job. It would be nice to have that position there, but I think we can manage the way we're doing it currently, given Brittany Ward's talents and skill set for another year until we get a little more stabilized coming out of COVID. So.
Well, I have one more question, sorry. And I would think we could contract some of those services like we've done in the past, if we needed to, for real estate.
And that's a very good point, Councilmember Howard, and it's part of the reasons why I haven't funded it. I'm not convinced yet that we're going to be able to save any professional services for attorneys and things like that, because this person is not going to be able to do closings or actually execute things. So I'm not sure we would have a full 40 hours of work for that position to do right now. And this delaying the implementation of that position will give us a chance to further evaluate that, to figure out how we craft that job description so that we can once we do hire that position, that we will have a significant amount of work for that person to do full-time all year long. So, okay.
Good. Thank you, Alice. Anybody else?
Councilman.
Robin, go ahead.
Yeah, just for Eric, on USCB and TCL, a couple years back, we put them on a fixed mill, and they benefit from any increase in the mill value. So I generally, whatever they're doing tends to be for information. I don't think we necessarily have action unless we're looking at increasing any amount of money for them in the current budget, because they benefit just out of the increased value of the mill.
Yeah, I agree. And we're evaluating too for Palmetto Breeze. We're evaluating right now how the COVID relief money and packages is going to benefit them in an expansion of services if they're proposing to do that. One of the ideas that's been floated that we're going to be looking into with TCL and USCB is maybe asking them to expand their services to assist the college students there with additional routes to get from school to work and back and forth and things like that, and use some of our money to fund that program. So we're evaluating all that right now. So I don't think the numbers for TCL, USCB, and Palmetto Breeze will change significantly, and that's why I'm comfortable with us doing this at the Finance Committee meeting. So
I talked to TCL yesterday, and I think you're absolutely right, Mr. Greenway, on that. And they are going to mention what they're working on through the ARP program, so that council will know that they're doing this for ARP and they're doing this with the mill. So it'll be two separate. They won't double dip, so to speak.
all right, that's all I have. Thank you.
And anybody else have anything for Mr. Greenway? Again, I can't see everyone's hands. I don't hear anything or see anything. So Eric, thank you. Is there any other business that we need to cover this morning?
Not for us. We're good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Eric. Seeing nothing, we are going to adjourn our workshop this morning. So thank you for everyone attending. And again, we will cover everything else then currently at the next Finance Committee meeting. Thank you all. Have a great day.